Last few moments, Suella Braverman has released a scathing attack on the Prime Minister in a letter. She accused Rishi Sunak of never having any intention of keeping key policy promises and told him his plan is not working. Now, I do have the letter in front of me. And she says, oh, my goodness, as you know, I accepted your offer to serve as Home Secretary on certain conditions, despite you being rejected by a majority of party members during the summer leadership contest, and thus having no personal mandate to be Prime Minister. I agreed to support you because of the firm assurances you gave me on key policy priorities. They were, among other things, reduce overall legal migration as set out in the 2019 manifesto, include specific notwithstanding clauses into new legislation to stop the boats, deliver the Northern Ireland Protocol, issue unequivocal statutory guidance to schools that protects biological sex, safeguards single-sex spaces, and empowers parents to know what is being taught to their children. This was a document with clear terms to which you agreed in October 2022 during your second leadership campaign. I trusted you. It is generally agreed that my support was a pivotal factor in winning the leadership contest and thus enabling you to become Prime Minister. Now, how I get to the second page, I don't know. Do I keep going up? It just disappears. Peter will read me. You read the rest, Peter.
On this phone,
yeah,
I mean, she's basically accusing him of betrayal,
go on, let's
of
hear it.
lying. For a year as Home Secretary, Suella Braverman says, I have sent numerous letters to you on key subjects contained in our agreement, made requests to discuss them with you and your team, and put proposals on how we might deliver these goals. I worked up the legal advice, policy detail, action to take on these issues. This was often met with equivocation, disregard, and a lack of interest. You have manifestly, Suella Braverman writes to Rishi Sunak, you have manifestly and repeatedly failed to deliver every single one of these key policies. Either your distinctive style of government means you're incapable of doing so, or as I must surely conclude now, you never had any intention of keeping your promises. These are not just pet interests of mine. They are what we promised the British people in our 2019 manifesto and led to a landslide victory. Our deal was no mere promise over dinner to be discarded when convenient and denied when challenged. I was clear from day one. She talks about the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, and his rejection of this path was not merely, as Suella Braverman puts it, a betrayal of our agreement, but a betrayal of your promise to the nation that you would do whatever it takes to stop the boats. I'll read the rest of it here just myself, but there are a lot of very, very strong words from Suella Braverman. Betrayal, essentially calling Rishi Sunak a liar. This is an absolute rocket of a letter. I've never seen a letter between two politicians quite like it. And were the signal needed that she may challenge him, or is at least going to be a massive thorn in his side and wants to be the next leader of the Conservative Party, this is it, Vanessa.
Right. What do you think of her assertion that Rishi Sunak has deliberately failed to deliver, where she says you had no intention, it seems, of keeping your promises? Do you think that there's any possibility that what she's saying is fair and just? Or do you think that Rishi Sunak has, with every possible sincerity, tried to deliver, and that she has also tried to deliver, let's face it, to bring about the same things, and they failed because they failed? They haven't failed because they didn't try or because he didn't want to succeed.
Well, certainly that is the charge that she lays. Now, a lot of people may say, the cynic would say, Suella Braverman, you've been Prime Minister you've been Home Secretary for a year. What's happening with the boats? Well, you've got 20% down, that's progress, but we're not nearly at the 100% that Rishi Sunak said they'd want to be. Whose fault is that? Is it your fault as Home Secretary? Is it the Prime Minister's fault? Who is it? The blob of civil servants? Who is to blame for this? And she is essentially saying that she has done everything in her power, an agreement when she agreed to become Home Secretary for Rishi Sunak, that she is essentially saying helped him become Prime Minister. And there's a real rocket actually in the first page of the letter as well on that particular point. If you just let me read this particular bit, where she says, this was a document, she talks about their agreement essentially, and says this was a document with clear terms which you agreed to in October 2022 during your second leadership campaign. I trusted you, full stop. It is generally agreed that my support was a pivotal factor in winning the leadership contest and thus enabling you to become Prime Minister.
And do we agree with that? We think that's true. That's been said many, many times by many different people.
It
he
was
needed her.
Important.
That's why he brought her back.
It would not have been Rishi Sunak's choice, and now he feels he had the choice to sack her. He feels the political situation was correct in order to do that. But this letter, I've never seen anything quite like it.
And when you say you've never seen anything like it, you've been our chief political correspondent for a long time, but you were a SPAD before that. You've been involved in this for years and years.
I've been around politics for about sort of 12 or 13
Okay.
years.
What is different about this letter that makes you virtually jump out of your seat when you saw your eyes practically fell out of your head?
It's really personal. It's really personal. It's saying that his style of leadership is wrong. It's saying that they agreed to things that he then lied about. It's saying that he didn't even try to do one of his major promises to stop the boats, 3 words that are haunting him at the moment and will continue to. Now what Number 10 is going to have to do, and I'm sure our team is talking to 10 Downing Street to try to get a response out of them behind the scenes, they will have to deny these things. They will have to say, this is not what happened, this was not what the agreement was, or alternatively, that everything possible in Rishi Sunak's power was done to make the agreement and what they agreed happen. So there will be a war of words for some time in terms of what happened and what didn't happen, and it's essentially a he said, she said, behind the scenes aspect. There will be documents as well that may come out, memorandums, letters between them. I'm sure Suella Braverman didn't exactly leave her desk without a few things printed out.
And let me ask you about something else. When she says we made an agreement, I lent you my support. It's because of that you're Prime Minister. I trusted you. We agreed that you would deliver on these things. You, the Prime Minister, would agree with me, the person you're about to appoint Home Secretary, who's just been fired anyway. I've lost my job, but nevertheless, you agreed to this. How normal is that the Prime Minister would offer the job of Home Secretary to a possible Home Secretary who would say, well, I might take it on condition that you deliver A, B, C and D. Does the Prime Minister have to promise to deliver to the Home Secretary? Is it normally the other way round?
Yes, it was a very abnormal situation.
Very abnormal.
We knew, obviously, with Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, they had a sort of deal that Blair would stand down at some point, but it's very rare for politicians to have this kind of deal, to have a discussion in this way. Of course, Rishi Sunak was trying to get people to back him. He knew he needed Suella Braverman to appeal to the right of the party. She was there. That uneasy coalition held for a little while. But the context of this is fascinating. We've had the Times article last Thursday. We had the march, the pro-Palestinian march on Saturday. Remembrance Sunday, of course. The reshuffle yesterday. Today we have all of this, and this letter, which will be poured over every scintilla, every comma, will be looked at. Tomorrow we have the Supreme Court giving its verdict on whether the Rwanda programme is legal or not. Now, Suella Braverman, whatever happens, will have something to say about that. And I think the government's going to lose it. And I also think that Suella Braverman is going to say, we need to leave the European Convention of Human Rights now. That will split the Conservative Party yet further, because Rishi Sunak is probably going to say that he's not going to. It's a really, really difficult week for Rishi Sunak, for his new Foreign Secretary.
Okay, will David Cameron come stampeding into the aid of the party? I mean, obviously he's there to add all sorts of things. He's there to add ballast. He's there to add stature on the international stage. He's there to take the chief burden of foreign policy and foreign secretary's work from Rishi Sunak. He's there to, provide a whole lot of things. Is one of those things to help in the response to this, as you say, earth-shattering letter from the ex-Home Sec?
And this is not just a foreign policy aspect. Of course it is. Relations with other governments, especially France, are incredibly important when it comes to stopping the boats. It's a home affairs issue. James Cleverly, the new Home Secretary, this is, following his predecessor, Suella Braverman, this is a big thing. But politically, the big question, the number one question politically for Rishi Sunak today is, how do you solve a problem like Suella?